Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're going to be talking about why you should stop buying precons, or who should and shouldn't be buying them, basically. We're going to be analyzing Commander Precons, discussing them, because I think that there are some people who will automatically go see a Commander Precon and they're like, okay, I'll buy that. And I don't think the question is as simple as yes or no if you should buy them. There's things that come into it with time, factors, how long you've been playing the game, etc. So I'm going to break it down and discuss my thoughts on it. Before we do, make sure you guys subscribe, make sure you share the video around, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to hit 25,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so hopefully we're able to make that. So first of all, what are precons? Precons are essentially official pre-constructed decks built by Wizards of the Coast that are released for the Commander format. There are precons for other formats from the past. Primarily, it's only Commander nowadays. They haven't released some for other formats in quite a while. They're built with a specific theme in mind for both gameplay and the card inclusions. They're focused around the set that they're released in. So, for example, in Edge of Eternities, we got the Alien Bug Planet Reshaper deck that was around, like, sacrificing your lands and playing lands from the graveyard and stuff like that's reshaping your planets and stuff. And then there was one around futuristic robots and, artifacts. So like, mechanical stuff and all that kind of stuff. So, they're meant to fit in that kind of space set, essentially. They are a set list, right? Like there's a set list. There are always these exact 100 cards and then with additional tokens on top of that. And they typically come with 2 new commanders that you can use with the deck and then 8 other new cards as well that are exclusive to those decks. But they can also be pulled typically from the collector boosters that will come alongside that set. So that's important because, those cards are available outside of just the decks. They are within the collector boosters as well. They're just going to be a little bit like, pricier potentially from them, or they have like, slightly different art, like the extended art instead of the normal art. They're also built around bracket 2 power level, or like they're a basic level deck essentially. Like, that's the bracket 2 is like the lowest bracket that's not like more meme decks essentially. And their biggest benefit is being able to jump straight into Commander, right? Like you can pick up a precon, sleeve it up, please put sleeves on your deck cards, and then jump into a game of Commander with your friends. And they come with a little description of what the game plan is, how the deck works and stuff. And, you've got a cohesive kind of board of cards that look kind of similar and work well together, essentially. So, a very quick analysis. I wanted to talk about this one here for Edge of Eternities because this is like the newest hot precon and sought after because it's actually really well crafted. That's one big thing that I will say here is that more recent precons, especially from like, the last, say, 3 or 4 sets, they've just been getting better in regards to the way they're crafted, some nice reprints and everything like that. So currently, if you purchase the cards individually from this deck, it will set you back around $64. If you don't care about the specific printings though, so like, there's like a card Beast Within or something like that in there, it's got one printing of it. If you don't care what it looks like, if you don't care about it being specifically the one from this deck, then you can get it from, a cheaper version of it with different art and stuff. It's important to note that the value is tied to specific cards within here. Most of the cards are going to be, not worth all that much. In fact, the top 10 cards from this will make up about $31 of that value. So, over half of the value is just within those 10 cards, which is crazy. And those are the most likely cards that you won't be cutting from it. Now, this precon you can pick up for about $44.70 at the moment. But just looking, like when you're going to buy a precon, have a look at the value of the cards that are within it. Have a look at how much you're paying for it. And kind of just toss that up as well. And that applies to both new and veteran players. Don't go buy a precon that's like, $50 and then you find out later that if you bought all those cards individually, it would have only cost you, $40 or something like that. There are a couple precons like that, or, the more expensive cards are ones that you would be cutting. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at it. So we're going to have a look at who should be buying them and who should not be buying them. And I'm going to break it down into those like 2 separate categories. Starting out with new players who should be buying precons. Precons are a great way for newer players to jump straight into Commander, specifically into Commander for Magic the Gathering straight away and be able to just start playing. They give you everything you need, the 100 card deck, the tokens to go alongside it with a predefined theme and game plan that will work. How well it works depends on how well the deck's kind of crafted and stuff, but typically they will work relatively well, and they're going to be straightforward game plans, not kind of in-depth kind of combo decks or anything like that. You know, these are relatively straightforward decks, like, you know, built around combat or built around, you know, playing with food and sacrificing the foods and stuff. It's stuff that is relatively straightforward for you to kind of pick up as a newer player. You know, it's a very easy way for you to try out new different strategies and new different deck styles. If you've played a little bit of Magic before, which we'll get into in a second, then you may know, you know, you like aggro decks and you like going fast and dealing damage really quickly. So you can look for precons that fit that and then test them out and see how well they play and stuff. And if you enjoy that kind of play style, you are already aware that you kind of, you know, at least have some inkling towards that play style. There are very great starter kit and starter product for new players. However, they are not great as a starter player for very, very new starter players. If you are literally just getting into Magic the Gathering, do not buy precons, in my opinion. Do not go buying precons as a great way to, like, you know, start into Magic or anything like that. They are awful to start into Magic because you will not really understand the gameplay of Magic. You will not understand, and you'll get very, very overwhelmed, in my opinion. There are just a million other better beginner products if you are starting out playing Magic. The beginner boxes are absolutely amazing. There's a new one coming out with the Avatar set later on. There's also this beginner box up here from Foundations. I've been playing with this with my 7-year-old, and, you know, it's really helping him kind of learn the gameplay. While if you have a Commander deck, which, you know, these precons are, you'll have 100 cards that, you know, most of them are going to be different because there's going to be, you know, the singleton rules. The only cards that can be the same are your basic lands. Otherwise than that, all of your cards are going to be different. There is just going to be so much to take in from it, so much to learn from that, as well as the fact that, you know, Commander is 4 players. You're going to have your own stuff to worry about, then this guy, then this guy, and then this guy's stuff to worry about as well. So there's just so much to kind of take in and learn. So new players, definitely, like, you know, if you are literally just starting Magic, do not buy precons. It is an awful way to start in the game, in my opinion. Go buy yourself, you know, the Foundation stuff, buy yourself the beginner box, buy yourself Jumpstart. Jumpstart's great because you buy 2 packs of it, you open them, you shuffle them together, and then that's your deck, right? There's starter kits that are great. Go play on Magic Arena for quite a while. Magic Arena will help you kind of learn with that tutorial and stuff that Commander will not. So definitely, you know, I do not think that if you're a new player, then you should be buying them if you are, you know, literally new. Next up, we've got veterans who should buy them. So veterans, you know, you've been playing the game for a while, you understand how to play Magic, you understand, you know, what kind of themes you like of the game and what cards you like and stuff. So if you like the theming of the mechanics or the theming of the set, you know, if you love Lord of the Rings, there's Lord of the Rings precons. They're older and they're going to be more expensive, but there is Lord of the Rings precons. If you love space, you know, there's the Edge of Eternity's ones that just came out. If you love Final Fantasy, boom, there's your Final Fantasy ones. They're definitely worth looking at if you are a veteran. Typically, you won't be keeping the deck the way it is, though. You'll be looking at it. You'll be, like, looking at cards that aren't working well and stuff like that. And that's another thing for a veteran is you can play with the deck. You can say, hey, this card was, like, dead weight in my hand. You can take that card out and replace it with something else. Typically, you know, if you're looking to potentially upgrade like 10 to 20 cards, right? We're not going to Theseus ship here. If you Theseus ship this, then there was no point buying the precon because now you've just replaced all of the cards with it with other cards and boom, now it's not even a precon. You've just put them aside. You know, if you're looking to bring the power level up, definitely, you know, replace that 10, 20 cards, upgrade it. If you're upgrading it, that's great. If you're replacing so many cards that it's no longer many cards from the precon, that's where you're kind of going to run into troubles, which we'll talk about in a second. If you think the deck is just a basis for a good deck that you're looking to build and it comes with cards that you're interested in, it may be worth looking into more. But look a little bit more in depth into it. Don't just see a precon and buy it straight away. That is, you know, that's what Wizards wants you to do, but just don't do that because that's going to be potentially wasting your money. On the other hand, veterans who should not be buying precons. If you look at the deck and find more than 20 plus cards that you'll potentially be replacing, it may be worth looking at it and saying it's not potentially worth it, right? Like if you look at the counter blitz deck and, you know, you find more than 20 cards that you're looking to replace, then is it worth buying it? Because, you know, instead you could build that deck up from scratch kind of thing. typically, you know, precons will have 10 plus really good reprints, some really good new cards potentially as well. But then they're also going to be filled with a whole bunch of other stuff that's maybe, you know, more bulk, or they're cheaper to pick up, right? Like stuff like Beast Within. Beast Within is an amazing removal spell. It's less than $1. You could pick that up, right? It's just got to toss that up. Like, is it worth potentially getting it if you're going to be replacing that much, or if the cards that you're not replacing are still really cheap? So all the cards printed within precons are going to be available for picking up for singles, whether it's someone bought the precon and then they've pulled it apart and then they've sold the singles off for it, or if they've, you know, opened them within collector boosters or whatever. They are going to be available otherwise. So, you know, the newer cards that come in a precon, like, you know, the Titus, is exclusive to this precon and the collector boosters, then it may be worth just picking up Titus himself rather than going and buying the precon and then rejigging it all. I'll get into one example from that in a minute, but, you know, there's a whole bunch of different precons that you look at them, you can see a whole bunch of cards that you're looking to replace or that aren't going to match the theme that you would like, right? Like, maybe you love this deck, but you're going to want to build it around more Commander Precon, like more like stun counters or something. Now, I buy precons all the time. I love precons, but sometimes I know that I've brought precons that I should not have because it was just not worth it, and there just wasn't enough justification to get them later on. Like, you know, I've bought them and then I've ended up regretting it. So that's kind of what you want to avoid. So when are also precons not worth it? When they're scalped to hell. This is not worth it for new players or veterans. When they're scalped to hell or have risen in price, do not buy them. On the left here, on the right here, you can see the Limit Break precon. This is the one from Final Fantasy that released, right? You can see its price and it has plummeted, right? Like, it was scalped to hell. People bought them all up and they were selling them, and, you know, they were really scarce. Now they get reprinted. Whether they get reprinted or there's more waves coming out from them all the time, they will be available again. Even the Lost Caverns of Ixalan ones that came out, I think it was 2 years ago, are still still having waves of them coming out, and, you know, dropping in prices. Like the Velociraptor one has dropped in prices. It's definitely worth potentially looking into, you know, buying them, but just don't buy them when they're at this extreme price. And, you know, I think that Final Fantasy has shown that they will come back down again, and buy them when they come back down again. Don't pay these exorbitant prices for them just because, you know, you can't find it right this second. Don't give in to FOMO. Just wait a few months, please. So what are the alternatives to buying precons? If you're in either of the sets for, you know, people who should not buy them. One, if you're a new player, buy those other new player stuff that I said. Except if you're a veteran or even a new player that looks at the precon and you find that, you know, there's cards that you don't gel with, building the deck yourself is the main alternative, the best alternative. This obviously takes a little bit more knowledge of the game and a little bit more time than just picking up a precon, but you can build the deck from the ground up to be better. There is plenty of advice out there for building decks for a number of different budgets. You can build the deck easily as powerful as a precon or even stronger. And like, I have the example here of Y'shtola that I talked about very briefly before. Y'shtola's deck was one that I do think that, you know, it's a great deck depending on what you wanted to go and if you wanted to keep it as a Final Fantasy theme deck. But if you want to build a Y'shtola deck yourself, I do think that potentially it is better to just build it from the ground up. Build, you know, the deck around her, more focused around that, because in the actual precon, there was a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't think fit it very well, or that I think that you could build a better deck for her. Now, keep in mind with a precon, if you're buying it, you're going to pay, you know, $50 US or something like that. Then you're also going to add another, you know, let's say $50 US in singles on top of that, right? Because, you know, some of the upgrades that people are going to suggest, including myself and other people, are going to be on a little bit of the pricier side. So you may need to, you know, invest a little bit more into it, which brings you up to, say, like $100 US in budget. I could build a Y'shtola deck that is going to kick the hell out of that precon's ass for $100 US easily. And I do think that, you know, there is a better alternative, which is building the deck yourself for, depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking to get into it easy, start out the deck, and, you know, if you're either a newer player who's gotten into Commander and want to build it like that, or if you're a veteran who would rather kind of, you know, build off of the precon and you find the precon has good bones to kind of fit the flesh of the deck that you want, definitely kind of look into it. But otherwise, building the deck yourself is a great idea. And, you know, another alternative is to go, you know, purchase a deck list from myself. I have these up on my Ko-fi. Here's a review from Spandex Lover saying I'm an amazing deck lover, and he highly encourages his fans to, like my fans, to support me on Ko-fi. And that's where you can go get a custom deck list from there. But honestly, I just kind of, like, the main reason I wanted to make this video is just to say, hey, precons are great, but they are not the be-all, end-all, and you may find that there is better alternatives here. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with this? You know, or do you think that, you know, it's fine to buy precons in these examples where you're going to be replacing, say, 30 cards from it or something? Let me know. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.